Welcome to The Right Question. I'm Daphne Gray Grant, and my topic today is dealing with multiple authors. I have a question from Alita Williams, a grad student based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Here's what she's asked.
What is the best way to go about a dynamic editing process like preparing a peer-reviewed manuscript with multiple co-authors? There are steps that include sending the manuscript to the co-authors more than once for their edits, receiving the edits of these co-authors, replying to the reviewers of the journal, doing copy edits, doing substantive/content edits, and using an editing software like Pro Writing Aid. I was surprised to find that this wasn't as linear a process as I thought it would be. My hope is that there is a less messy, less bull in a Chinaware shop approach to this dynamic process.
Thanks for your question, Alita. I know that much academic work arises out of collaboration, but that doesn't make collaboration easy. You are quite right in observing that at times the process is messy and can seem woefully nonlinear. This is partly the nature of projects where it's necessary to find some consensus. Still, it's always possible to make such projects less stressful. For the last 10 years, I've had a contract with a research unit at one of my local universities. As a result, I have a fair bit of experience in dealing with collaboration, and I'm happy to share what I've learned with you. I'm going to present this video as 3 tips for you. Tip number 1, know who the senior person for the paper is going to be. If it's you, that's fine as long as you understand that it's not a popularity contest and that you're prepared to make the hard decisions necessary. If the senior person is someone else, that's also fine. Just understand that you may need to defer to that person from time to time. The only problem I see is if the group fails to identify a senior person. It's horrible trying to write by committee. That's my idea of hell. Someone must be the lead author and must be in charge, and you all must know who that is. Tip number 2, at the beginning of the project, agree on a process for how you will handle editing. I know this may seem premature before you have any writing done, but if you can get an agreement up front, it will save you an awful lot of pain down the road. For group projects, I like to use track changes, a feature built into MS Word. See link below. This system allows every reader to insert notes into the text, but I suggest you go one step further. Assign everyone their own individual color and request that they highlight their notes in that color exclusively. Tip number 3, don't ever have more than one master copy of the draft floating around. Instead of sending the draft to all collaborators at the same time, send it to one person at a time and agree upon a specific order. Let's imagine that you're the lead author and you have 4 collaborators. I'm going to give them imaginary names. Let's say they're called Robin, Leslie, Sydney, and Jules. So, as the lead author, you always hold the master copy. When you're ready to send it out, let's imagine you send it to Robin first, and Robin adds comments highlighted in blue. Then it comes back to you, and you decide which of Robin's comments make immediate sense. Obviously, fixing typos will go into this category, but there may be other changes you can make without getting the permission of the rest of the group. You can make any of these safe changes yourself, and then if there are any you're uncertain about, leave them in the manuscript in blue. That way, all your collaborators will be able to respond to them, and they'll know they came from Robin. Then you send the next version of the master draft to Leslie, who's going to use pink. Leslie reviews this master draft and returns it to you. Once again, you make the safe changes yourself, and then leave Leslie's more controversial comments in pink in the manuscript. Then you submit the draft to Sydney, who's going to be making remarks in yellow before returning the draft to you. Again, do the same as you did with Robin and Leslie's comments. Finally, You send the draft to Jules, who's going to be adding remarks in bright green before returning it to you. Now you do the same as you did with Robin, Leslie's, and Sydney's comments. At this point, let me make one obvious observation. Because there will only be one copy of the master draft, the urgency of deadlines will become particularly important. In my experience, if people can see a valid reason for a deadline, they're more likely to work towards it. Your reason is that you want everyone to be able to work from one master draft. This will save everyone a great deal of time and frustration, and I encourage you to remind your collaborators of this fact. And, perhaps puzzlingly, people are more inclined to meet a short deadline rather than a long one, provided they have enough notice. You're not doing yourself any favors if you give people too long to respond. Agree on these deadlines before any writing takes place and underline how important they are. When all of your collaborators have returned their comments to you, see if there is any way for you to easily fix any disagreements between them. In my experience, a certain percentage of issues will be relatively easy to fix. That said, there will inevitably be some tough sticking points. For this reason, you'll need to schedule an in-person meeting between all collaborators after you've all had a chance to review the master draft. Of course, if you have some out-of-town collaborators, it's possible for them to join by Skype or FaceTime or some other software like that. At this meeting, everyone should have their own printed out copy of the draft, and you should review it together in chronological order. Use the principle of consensus decision-making to struggle through the difficult points. That said, if there's anything that you're unable to agree on, the lead author should get the final decision. Alita, you also asked how to handle feedback from journal reviewers. I suggest you follow exactly the same process I've just outlined. Have a master draft that you send to your collaborators one at a time, and then, if necessary, meet again at the end to review your decisions. Have one master copy you send to collaborators that they review one at a time. Incorporate their feedback yourself if you can, and if you can't, leave their color-coded comments in the document and have another meeting. I know, it sounds like an awful lot of work, but it's very effective. To follow this process, spell out your expectations, get agreements in advance, enforce deadlines, be super well organized. Finally, let me wrap up with a quote from the CEO of Warby Parker, Neil Blumenthal. A good collaboration pushes the boundaries of both partners. I agree with Blumenthal, although I think he seriously underestimated the number of collaborators in academic pursuits. It's usually way more than 2, but the same principle applies. If you can manage the process of collaboration, you will benefit from it. Thanks for the great question, Alita.